Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last lesson in this unit, which is the biology unit, life science. So today we're going to be talking about genetics. The essential question for today, remember, write this down in your notes, is how can the traits of offspring be accurately predicted based on the traits of the parents? Our standards for today are here. Go ahead and read over that before starting. Take a minute to do today's bell ringer, and we will go over the answers for this at the end of the lesson. Okay, at this time, you should be on the guided notes, and that is what we will start right now. So, first of all, let's go over some basic vocabulary on heredity. The first one is chromosomes. Chromosomes are a large collection of DNA wound up or coiled up many times around proteins. So, essentially, a chromosome is a packaged up DNA. DNA is a large molecule that carries the code for all of your traits. Again, DNA is genetic code that tells your cells what to do. Genes are instructions for a specific trait, such as eye color. And alleles are different forms of genes which give you the different phenotypes or the different physical characteristics that you get. Let's delve a little deeper into what alleles are. So there's two possible alleles, dominant alleles or recessive alleles. A dominant allele is an allele that is always expressed when present. So if that allele, that set of genes, is there, then that trait will show up. Recessive alleles are alleles that are only expressed if the dominant is not present and can only be seen when both alleles are recessive. So since you get half of your DNA from mom and half of your DNA from dad, you get two sets of genes for every trait. So here are the combinations that are possible. You can have a homozygous dominant genotype, which is where both alleles are dominant. And again, when we express these in writing, dominant alleles are always going to be capital letters. We could also have homozygous recessive, where a genotype has both alleles that are recessive. And again, we show that with two lowercase letters. Or the alleles could be heterozygous. Remember, hetero means different. So heterozygous is a genotype where a person has one dominant and one recessive allele. But remember, the dominant is called dominant because it is the one that is expressed. So even if you have a heterozygous setup, the dominant one is the one that takes over, and it's the one that is expressed or shown on your body. All right, let's think about this question now. Is it possible for someone to have blue eyes while their parents both have brown eyes? Explain why or why not. In this case, blue eyes is the recessive trait, and brown eyes are the dominant trait. So here, yes, it is possible for someone to have blue eyes if both their parents have brown eyes. Because even though both their parents have brown eyes, they might both be carrying the blue eye gene. But because brown eye is dominant, we wouldn't know if they're carrying that blue eye gene just by looking at them. So both parents could pass on the blue eye gene even though they don't express it. And if both of them do, then the child can have blue eyes. So let's differentiate between genotype and phenotype. Genotype is the combination of alleles that an organism carries for a certain trait. For example, the two that you get from your parents. So it could be a dominant and a recessive, or a dominant-dominant, or recessive-recessive. But the genes that you get, okay, again, you don't know which genes you get, but the ones that you do are called the genotype. The phenotype, on the other hand, is what we can observe in an organism, the result of the genotype. So depending on what your genotype is what your phenotype will show. So you might have a brown eye gene and a blue eye gene, but your phenotype is brown eyes. Now let's talk about cell division. There's two ways that cells can divide in general. Mitosis is a process of cell division where the new cells are identical to the parent and have a full set of DNA. This is used for growth and repair. Most cells in your body do mitosis. They make copies of themselves, and those copies have full sets of DNA. Meiosis, on the other hand, is a process of cell division where the new cells are unique and have half a set of DNA. Another word for these types of cells are called haploid cells or sex cells or gametes. These gametes include sperm cells or egg cells, depending on if they're male, sperm, or female, eggs. And these are used for reproduction of the whole organism. So again, meiosis only happens in organisms that reproduce sexually, and this is how those sex cells are made. A next question for you to ponder is, why do organisms have 2 alleles for every trait? Go ahead and pause the video, think about it, talk to your partner about why you think organisms have 2 alleles for every trait. And of course, the answer is because you have 2 parents. You get 1 allele from each of them for every single one of your traits. If it's dominant, then that's the one that's going to show. If it's recessive, it'll only show if you get both recessive genes from both parents. Okay, let's practice using some Punnett squares. So Punnett squares are a tool that we can use to identify percentages of what offspring might look like based on the genotypes of the parents. So in rabbits, the allele for black coat color, capital B, is dominant over the allele for brown coat color, lowercase b. Show a Punnett square and predict the possible genotypes and phenotypes for a cross between an animal which is homozygous for black coat and one that is homozygous for brown coat. So it doesn't tell us which is which, but we know that one is homozygous for black, and again, it doesn't matter. But one is homozygous for black and one is homozygous for brown. Remember, homo means the same. Zygous is referring to the genes. So here, both genes are the same for black, which means we'll have 2 capital B's. And this one is homozygous for brown, which means we'll have 2 lowercase b's. So we'll just say mom is homozygous for black and the dad is homozygous for brown. So a Punnett square, we're going to put the parents on the outside. Okay, and since, again, your parents had parents, they have 2 genes, one from each of their parents, and they're going to pass on one of those genes to the offspring. So, again, mom is capital B, dad is lowercase b, lowercase b. And then what we do with these boxes in the middle is we just combine. We bring 1 down from mom and 1 across from dad. And then here, the same thing. 1 down from mom, 1 across from dad. 1 down from mom, 1 across from dad, and here as well. 1 down from mom, 1 across from dad, which gives us a total of all of the offspring are going to be heterozygous. Remember, hetero means different, which means that all of the babies are going to have 1 capital B, 1 black hair gene from mom, and 1 brown hair gene from dad, which means all of the babies are going to have black fur because it is the dominant trait. So again, 100% of the babies are going to have black fur because they have the capital B. The only way they could have brown fur is if both had lowercase b, like dad. Dad was a brown furred rabbit. Let's try another one. So, clasp your hands together quickly. Your left thumb on top is dominant and your right thumb on top is recessive. So if you did this without thinking, the thumb that you have on top is actually encoded genetically in you. So some people will put their left thumb on top, some people will put their right thumb on top, and again, whichever one you do is encoded genetically, meaning you got it, it passed down from one of your parents. So let's say mom was heterozygous, meaning she had 1 dominant and 1 recessive, and dad was homozygous, homo means the same, for the recessive trait, which would mean the right thumb on top, which would be 2 lowercase t's. So let's draw that Punnett square. So again, mom is heterozygous, dad is homozygous recessive. So if we fill that in, mom's capital T, lowercase t. Dad is 2 lowercase t's. So now all we do is just cross them in this middle Punnett square, these 4 spaces right here. So we bring down this large uppercase T and lowercase t from dad. So again, uppercase T from mom, lowercase t from dad. Here we get a lowercase t from mom, lowercase t from dad. Here we get uppercase T from mom, lowercase t from dad. And then again here we get 2 lowercase t's, 1 from mom, 1 from dad. So we can see here that 2 of the offspring are going to have the dominant trait and 2 of the offspring are going to have the recessive trait. So this equals out to a 50-50 on the trait of which thumb is going to be on top when you clasp your hands. Okay, at this time, let's go over the we do section and let's practice doing some of these Punnett squares. Okay, let's go over these questions. So remember, there's definitions up here for you in case you forget what they are. But let's look at number 1 first. So it says, dimples are indentations in your face as you smile. Everybody should know what dimples are. Use a Punnett square to determine the outcome of a cross between a heterozygous dad and a homozygous recessive mom. Answer the questions in the box below. So if dad is homozygous recessive, we're going to put a, and again, it doesn't matter which side you put it on, but let's just put dad because it's the first one on top. And we'll put a capital D and a lowercase d. And homozygous recessive mom would be 2 lowercase d's. Remember, these outside boxes are where you put the parents because the inside boxes are what we get with the offspring. So if I have capital D here and lowercase d here and 2 lowercase d's here, then that uppercase D is going to come down here and here, and the lowercase d is going to come down here and here, and then the second one for each of these will be a lowercase d. So we will have capital D, lowercase, 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 capital, lowercase, and lowercase, lowercase. So again, that would give us the possible genotypes would be capital D, lowercase d, and lowercase d, lowercase d. Possible phenotypes would be dimples and no dimples. The percentage would be, again, out of 4, we would have 2 that are dimples and 2 that are not. So that would be 50-50. So again, what percentage of the offspring might not have dimples? It would be 50% as well. So 50-50. All right, let's do number 2. A couple is going to have a baby. The father is homozygous dominant for curly hair, so 2 capital H's. The mother is homozygous recessive, 2 lowercase h's, for straight hair. Answer the questions in the box below. So let's fill out the Punnett square first. Again, father, capital H, mother, lowercase h, lowercase h. And if we cross them together, we see that every single box has 1 capital H and 1 lowercase h. So the possible genotypes of the offspring are capital H, lowercase h. There is no other possibility. The possible phenotypes is that all of them will have curly hair. And the percentage of that is that 100% will have curly hair and 0% will have straight hair. Now I want you to do number 3 and number 4 on your own. I'll kind of guide you here real quick. But remember, heterozygous means that it's different. So it would be 1 capital, 1 lowercase. In this case, both parents are heterozygous. So you put 1 capital, 1 lowercase, 1 capital, 1 lowercase, and then fill in the boxes in the middle. Number 4, and then obviously answer the questions. Number 4 says most of the human population has dark hair. A smaller percent of humans have light hair. A heterozygous brown-haired man and a blonde-haired woman are having a baby. Answer the questions in the box below. So, if most of the population has dark hair, we can assume that that is a dominant trait. So, capital B would be dark hair. Lowercase b would be light hair because less people have it. So, a heterozygous brown-haired man, again, hetero means different. So, we would have a capital B, lowercase b. And a blonde-haired woman, and if blonde is recessive, the only way we can get blonde hair is if both genes are the recessive gene. So we would put lowercase b, lowercase b. Now go ahead and fill in the Punnett square and answer these questions. Okay, so these next ones are a little bit different. These are going to show a pedigree, but you can do the same idea as a Punnett square. You're going to put the genotypes of the parents in the square and the circle, and then you're just going to bring them down to the offspring here. So it's just a different way of showing this, but on a different map, a different model. So again, you would put the genotypes, the 2 letters that represent the genes, in the box or the circle, and then these down here would be the offspring. So again, you would combine 1 from dad, 1 from mom, 1 from dad, 1 from mom, 1 from dad, 1 from mom, and so on. Okay, then go ahead and answer these questions. Do that for both of these. So for example, a plant with purple flowers, capital F, lowercase f, gets the pollen from a plant with white flowers, two lowercase f's, and produces lots of baby flowers. Answer the questions in the box below. So we would have purple flower, capital F, lowercase f, and white flower, two lowercase f's in the circle. And then we just bring down one for each. So at the top, we'd have the first one for that one, first one for this one, and then the first one for this one, and the first one for this one. Then the second one here would go here, and the second one here would go here, and the second one here would go there and there. Okay, again, same idea. We're crossing the parents to see what the offspring show. If it's easier to do it in the boxes, just draw the boxes. Okay, and then do the same thing for this one. That should be it for the we do section. So now let's revisit the bell ringer very quickly. The gene for curled ears is dominant over the gene for straight ears in cats. If you crossed a cat with curled ears, capital E, lowercase e, and a cat with straight ears, two lowercase e's, what percent of the offspring are expected to have curled ears? So we can use a Punnett square to solve this answer. And if we do that, we would see that 50% of the cats will have curled ears and 50 will have straight ears. And this is what your Punnett square would look like if you did it. Okay, so it looks like there is no lines for the exit ticket, but you're going to write it on the back side of your notes paper. So the first page, the back side of it is blank. This is where I want you to write the answer for this question. And the question says, how can the traits of offspring be accurately predicted based on the traits of the parents? So again, if we know the genotypes of the parents, we can use a Punnett square to make a prediction of what the genes of the offspring will be. So again, a Punnett square can help us to see what the crosses would be of the genotypes of both parents and how that would look like in the offspring. Again, using a Punnett square would be our best way to make this prediction. All right, everybody, that is it for today. Make sure those notes are done. If you didn't turn in the notes from last Friday, make sure you turn that in as well. And again, make sure that all of your assignments have your name on it. I will see you on Wednesday when I get back. Tomorrow you will have a quiz. Make sure when you get into class, you have your notes and you can use your notes on the quiz. And good luck. All right, everybody. See you on the next one. Goodbye.